This is a lecture from OpenTuition. To benefit from the lecture, you should download the free lecture notes from opentuition.com.
Chapter 8 deals with risk and uncertainty, and this is important because when we're talking about performance management, you are wondering how we can improve future performance. And future performance depends on what's going to happen then, and of course we don't know for certain. We may have no ideas about the probabilities of different outcomes, or we might be able to assign some probabilities to different outcomes occurring. If that's the case, it's called risk. If you're working in the dark with no probabilities available, then it's called uncertainty. And the best way to see the various approaches is to work through this example. So we'll read through it because it's just a little bit complicated, but it's not too bad. So here we have John. John is a factory, and John's factory, you can see, you can get this writing here, has a capacity here of 1200 units per month, the maximum capacity. And John has a bunch of ordinary customers to whom he can sell at 11, and the cost we've got in here is 6. So for these ordinary customers, there'll be a contribution of 11 minus 6. There's a contribution in there of 5 per unit. But John doesn't know exactly what these customers demand. Here we have 4 demands from 400 to 900 with 4 probabilities that we might be able to use. Now this demand goes up and down a lot, so it's a little bit unsatisfactory from the planning point of view. And John has been approached by another customer who is prepared to contract for a fixed quantity each month. That will give John a certain amount of security. Unfortunately, the price is only £9 per unit, so these are selling at 9, they cost 6. We've got in here only a contribution of 3 per unit. And John has to decide how many units to sign up for. Should it be 300, 500, 700 and 800? Because this special customer must get what has been contracted for, and if there are any units left, then that will go to the ordinary customers, the customer he's been supplying so far. In these situations, what you must always start off with is what's called a payoff matrix, which displays all the possible profits or outcomes that can occur. So here we have the ordinary customers demanding 400, 500, 700 or 900 with these probabilities that we'll use from time to time. And here we have what John could sign up for the special customer. So I'll put a few of these on, and then I'll let you try to work out the others yourself. I'll just get you started on the first, maybe part of the second lines here. So this one here, always start with this special contract size. These people take priority. So if you sign up for 300, the contribution for each of these people, it was 3. And then we have our ordinary customers come along demanding 400 units, and each of those is 5, so that'll be 2,900 possible in there. The next one was, so we're going to get our 300 at 3, but to be another 100 units at 5, so I think that's going to be 3,400 added on there, just adding on 500. Along here we still have the 900 coming from these demands of 300, but it's going to be another 200 units at 5. That's going to be another 1,000, and again another 1,000. However, we have to be careful. We just have to make sure that the maximum capacity of production, 1,200, is never breached. And here we just do it because we've got 300 going to these people, we have 900 going to these people, that's 1,200. We're just up against the maximum production capacity, but we can do it. Second row, 500 at 3, and then 405. So it's going to be 3,500. We can go up another 100 units. That'll be up another 100 units at 5 each. So that's going to be up 500. So that's going to be 4,000. This time we're going up 200 units at 5 each. That'll be up another 1,000. But now we're stuck, because at this we are selling 500 to the special customer. There is demand of 700 from our ordinary customers. That's 1,200. We can't make any more. So when we go up to this other demand here of 900, there's going to be unsatisfied demand. We can still only make 5,000. So I want you to stop the recording now. See if you can fill in the remaining 8 cells in this table, and then when you start the recording again, I will just kind of write them in for you to check. So stop it now and have a go yourself. Okay, I assume you've done it. So you should be finding 4,100, 4,600, and then again we're stuck. We can't make any more. And here it's going to be exactly the same all the way through, because immediately we've got 1,200 in there. So it's going to be 4,400 all the way through. So here we have 16 results, and what we have to do is find a way of dealing with these 16 results. And the first approach, and the only one which uses these probabilities, is what's called expected values. And here's where you weight or multiply each of the outcomes with the probability that it's happening. So on the first one, if John signs up to guarantee 300 going to this special person, then there is a 0.2 chance we're going to get 2,900, and 3 out of every 10 weeks we're going to get 3,400. On 4 out of every 10 weeks we're going to get 4,400. And on 1 out of every 10 weeks we're going to get 5,400. And if you work that out, it comes out to 3,900. Next one, if he signs up to 500, then on 2 out of every 10 weeks there's going to be 3,500. On 3 out of every 10 weeks is going to be 4,000. And then really 0.4 plus 0.1 and half of all weeks we're going to get 5,000. The next one, he signs up to 700. So on 0.2, or 2 out of every 10 weeks, he's going to make 4,100. Then all the rest are the same, so that's 0.1 plus 0.4, that's 0.5, plus 0.3, that's 0.8. That's going to come to 4,500. And then finally, very easy, the last one. Everything that happens is going to be 4,400. And the decision process is, if you look at these potential expected values and you choose the one which is largest, and it's going to be this one, And your advice to John is you should sign up to making 700. Sign up for 700 units, and on average this is going to produce you a monthly profit of 4,500. Now, expected values depend on us knowing, or at least guessing, what these probabilities are, and that's making a decision under conditions of risk. What happens if we don't have these probabilities, or have no faith in these probabilities? So here I have at the top of the page, here we have the payoff matrix exactly as we worked out on the previous page, but it's just written out or typed out in a way more neatly. And the first approach we'll use is something which is called Maxi Min. And the Maxi Min approach is really an approach, you could say, of great pessimism. So a person who is pessimistic is someone who always believes the worst is going to happen, always fears the worst is going to happen, and is therefore anxious to kind of protect themselves from this worst outcome. So what this pessimistic person will say, this Maxi Min person will say, is if I sign up for 3,000 units being sold to this special customer, the worst that will happen is that. That's that's going to hit me because fate doesn't like me. Fate will be conspiring against me, so the worst will happen. If I sign up for 500, then the worst that can happen in here is, again, it's going to be that one, 3,500. If you sign up for 700, the worst thing that can happen is going to be 4,100. And finally, you sign up for 800, doesn't really matter what happens, but it's going to be only a profit of 4,400. What this pessimistic person then says is, basically, we will either make only 2,900 of, that's the worst scenario there. We'll only make 3,500, that's the worst scenario there. 700, that's the worst scenario there. 4,400, and this is, if you like, the best of a bad lot. These are all the bad things that can happen, and the least bad thing that can happen is 4,400. So this person will say, my strategy is to sign up an order for 800. This is where we minimize the unpleasant things, minimize the effect of the unpleasant things that can happen. So that's Maxi Min. Look on the black side, look on the bad side, and choose the strategy which is the best of a bad lot, which minimizes the effect of these bad results. The second strategy under uncertainty we will use is what is known as the Maxi Max Strategy. Now, if our Maxi Min person was a bit of a pessimist, the Maxi Max person is the complete optimist. This is the person who is always bouncing around, very optimistic about what's going to happen. This is the sort of person who will probably talk to you at breakfast. So this person says, no matter what decision I make, it'll always turn out for the best. So if I sign up an order of 300, then the best will happen, 5,400. If I sign up an order for 500, then the best will happen, well, it's 5,000. If I set up an order for 700, then I'm going to be getting 4,600, or of course 4,400. So this person will look at this and say, I'll either get 5,400, or 5,000, or 4,600, or 4,400, and of course the best that's going to happen, it will be 5,400. So the Maxi Max person would adopt the strategy of signing a contract for 3,000. These people always believe they're going to land on their feet, that they're always looking at the upside. The Maxi Min person tends to be looking on the downside. Now, no company really says our company policy is going to be Maxi Min or Maxi Max. Really, what these approaches are saying is that the decisions that are made by managers really relate back to almost their personalities, whether they are inherently pessimistic or optimistic. And once you're working in the dark, because now, of course, we're not making use of any probabilities, we really don't know, which of these demands is likely to occur. Then the Maxi Max person will look on the bright side, the Maxi Min person will tend to look on the black side, and you can't separate decision making from one's personality or one's outlook. The final one to be looking at is what's called the Maxi Min Regret. And this person is a bit of a kind of crazy, mixed up person. This person always looks back on what's happened and says, oh, if only I had done something else. And they're always kind of looking back to seeing if they have regretted their decision. So, it's a little difficult to get into this. What you have to look at here is not to say that the person has made a particular decision, but say that there is a particular outcome, that 400 people come along, or there's demand for 400 units, and you're looking back and said, right, given that there's demand of 400 units, did I happen to do the best thing? So if there was demand for 400 units, the best we could have done was to have signed up an order for 800. That will give us the best outcome if demand happens to be 400. And if we had signed up for 800 units to the special customer, we will say to ourselves, I'm really happy because I couldn't have done any better. So the regret there will be 0. If, however, we had signed up for 700, we would only make 4,100, and by saying to ourselves, oh, goodness me, I wish I'd signed up for 800, I could have made 4,400, I've only made 4,100, I've made a mistake, or I have regret there. The difference between these two here of 300. And so on down from the best to what you get. So here the regret would be 900, and here the regret would be it's going to be 1,500. In the next one we say, well, we would have no regret if we'd signed up to 700. That is the best we could do under these circumstances. Remember, we can't control what the external demand is. 500 happens, and we say, what would I want to have done had I known that was going to happen? And what we've got in here, no regret in here, 4,600 down to 4,400, 200, 600, 1,200. This one, no regret at 5,000, that's the best that would have happened. We're out of luck by 600 going down there, 400 and 600. And then finally, the best we could do in here is in there, no regret. We're going to be 400 down on our luck here. We're going to be 800 down on our luck here. And we're going to be 1,000 down on our luck here. So this is the regret matrix. And then this Mini Max Regret person shows true colours, and they go to a rather pessimistic Maxi Min person. They say, right, if I sign up with 300 units going to the special customer, what is the maximum regret I will endure? And it's going to be that, 1500. If we sign up for 500 units, what is the maximum regret I will have to suffer? And it's going to be 900. Signing up for 700, the maximum regret we have is 800. And finally, if we sign up for 800 units, the maximum regret is 1000. So these are the kind of bad things that will happen under this scenario. We'll regret either 1500, 900, 800 or 1000. What's the best? What's the least regretful of those? And of course it's 800. And so the strategy there will be to order 700 units. Again, no one is going to say Minimax Regret is our company policy. It is just a rather kind of complicated psychology which we're trying to work out, maybe to predict or at least to demonstrate how different managers will come to different conclusions. Finally, on risk and uncertainty, it's worth, I think, just mentioning some of the shortcomings of expected value. Expected value, in many ways, seems the most satisfactory result because we're using more information, we're using the probabilities, but expected value has got some drawbacks. So here we have two possible projects we could go into. We could adopt Project A or Project B. And the projects could be opening in a different country, it could be launching different products. Project's a very general name, essentially it's different decisions that we're making. We've got two states of the world. Maybe state of the world 1 is where the economy is poor, state of the world 2 is where the economy is good. Or state of the world 1 is where there's a lot of unrest around the world. State of the world 2 is where there's more kind of peace and prosperity and so on. And someone has assigned probabilities to these different outcomes of 0.6 and 0.4. So, Project A will give us 2,000 or 10,000. Project B will give us 4,000 or 6,500. And expected values calculations would say for Project A, there's a 0.6 chance of making 2,000, that will be 1,200. Or there's a 0.4 chance of making 10,000, that's going to be 4,000. So the expected value of Project A is 5,200. Similarly, in Project B, there's a 0.6 chance of making 4,000, so 0.6 times 4, 2,400. And a 0.4 chance of making 6,500, 2,600. And pure, rather naive, expected values would say you should choose the project which gives you the higher expected value. So it would be pointing here towards Project A. 5,200 beats 5,000. What might be wrong with that conclusion? And there are a number of potential reasons. First of all, how are the probabilities acquired? If you change the probabilities very slightly, you can change which of the projects you would prefer. Hard enough, I would suggest, coming out with the amounts of money involved. But how do we know it shouldn't be 0.5 and 0.5 rather than 0.6 and 0.4, or indeed 0.75 and 0.25? It must be really open to question how these probabilities have been arrived at. Secondly, there is a name expected value. If these are once-off projects, if you do Project A once, we are saying you'll either get 2,000 or 10,000, we are not ever expecting you're going to get 5,200. Similarly, if you do project B, we're saying either we will get 4,600. We are not expecting 5,000. So usually, actually, the phrase expected value, we better call the unexpected value. Now that's for one-off projects. If you're repeating the experiment many times, like it's monthly sales, weekly sales, daily sales, then the expected value will settle down to be the average. But on a once-off project, or project A, we're either going to get that or that. If we actually expected 5,200, it should be in these outcomes somewhere. So here we're making decisions based on two figures which are not actually expected. So there must be some doubt over the quality of the decisions we're making. Third point is really to do with risk. What I haven't told you here is that the project cost was 3,500. This means that if the project cost 3,500, we see no possibility whatsoever of making a loss if we adopt project B. The worst outcome is 4,000. The thing has cost 3,500. We're bound to make 3,500 at least. However, with project A, we could invest 3,500 and only get 2,000. There's a loss going on there of 1,500, which could actually be fatal to the company. So here we have really the project with a higher expected value has also got a higher risk, a higher range there, 2,000 up to 10,000. It's a very large range of outcomes, and the lower one's very serious. Whereas here, there's even though the overall outcome is maybe not quite so attractive, but there's a very limited, very narrow range of outcomes, and therefore there's much less risk associated with it. So expected value of itself does not take risk into account. And really, it is impossible to make any sort of decision on what you're going to do, what the company should do, based on returns without taking risk into account. Other methods that we can use to try and assess or deal with risk and uncertainty. First of all, there is sensitivity analysis. And sensitivity analysis is usually described as a percentage by which one of your assumptions must change before you get to a break-even or a zero net present value. And generally speaking, the smaller this percentage, then what you want to do is to try and get some more information. So if you could vary one of your assumptions by only 2%, then of course you know that's a really kind of sensitive assumption, and we would really like to try and find out some more information to see how likely that 2% fall is. Remember that there is not really a particular connection between the percentage fall in an assumption and the probability of it happening. So I could suggest that a 2% fall in the volume of products being sold is highly likely, because the volume of products being sold can be quite difficult to predict. But a 10% increase in maybe the cost of the project, or a 20% or 25% increase in the cost of the project, is actually relatively unlikely to occur, because it's probably easier to establish control over costs than it is over future sales volumes. The second method is scenario planning. And scenario planning looks at a set of events that are likely to occur. So, for example, if you had an election coming up, we could have Party A or Party B getting in. And Party A might say increase interest rates. Maybe we think up by 2%. Maybe Party B we think might reduce interest rates down by 1%. And then we think at the same time, maybe we have government spending. Maybe we think this is maybe potentially going to go down here by 5%. Maybe this one here will go up by maybe 6%. Now, in a way, what we've got here are potentially a number of different permutations, 4 different permutations. In some ways, interest rate could be 2%, government spending could be 5 or 6, so that's 2 permutations, or interest rate could be 1%, and government spending could be 5 or 6%. That's again another 2 permutations. So 4 permutations are going on there, but actually only 2 are likely. So the set of events which are likely to occur are these. Because what happens when you're looking at future outcomes, you can say, well, maybe the exchange rate will do this, maybe interest rates will do that, maybe other factors in the economy will do something else, and you can end up with huge different number of permutations. And what we need to do is simplify that and say, out of these maybe 16, 32 permutations, let's get a few viable sets of permutations which it's worth actually looking for as potential outcomes. Finally, here are the questions which we suggest you look at for Chapter 8.